Hello, Callum. umbraCoffee, Midsummer or Summer Chillout Edition, as I titled it today in the morning. We are already in the middle of summer, and that's crazy. That's crazy.
Doesn't feel like it here. We had our summer in the UK about 2 weeks ago, where the weather was nice for about 3 days, and then rubbish after that. So you've been away though, Marcin.
Yes, I've been away. I've been in Egypt, Africa, for 10 plus days, and so I captured a lot of sun. I can say it's in advance. But funny enough, it was almost similar weather in Poland, because when we were chatting with our family, it seemed that they were also suffering from just 30 plus degrees when we had 40 plus degrees. But it was fun. I was completely detached, I can say, from everything what was happening in the internet, in the web. I was trying to rest and read a lot. And none of this worked out pretty well, because as I said to you before going live, my iPhone said that it was one of the most active weeks amongst my activities in the last years, the most amount of steps, calories burned, and so on. But that was on purpose. And yeah, I've read some pretty cool books, took some mental rest, I would say, and now I'm back and ready for the upcoming week where I'm starting again. So how's your summer going so far?
It's been busy, Marcin. It's been very busy. It's always busy here, but busier than it should be. And don't have too many breaks planned just yet. But we've got a few things coming up. We're taking the team to Madrid for a few days. That'll be good fun. And I think I worked out the other day. I'm going to pull up my calendar just so I can check. But I'm away from the 26th of August all the way through until the 8th of October. So that's
awesome. Do you know where you are going already? Is it
there's a bunch of US, Denmark, Spain, Bulgaria, Hungary, all kinds of places. It's going to be good, but it's not all unfortunately.
So at least you have a date until which you need to survive. And that's it. But that's exactly what I had in my mind when I was speaking about summer. It's like in theory it's a silent period, but a lot of the people are also utilizing this time to catch up with everything what was just outstanding, or they're just preparing for the autumn season when a lot of things are happening. And I already started to submit some of the proposals for events, some of the talk submissions, some of the plans, and I would love to go everywhere basically. But then I realized that also time is limited. And possibilities are also limited, but yeah, this kind of stuff. But I started the summer, at least for example, from missing a couple of deadlines, as I mentioned to you as well, because there were a couple of deadlines. And funny enough, when I was preparing for this episode, I checked some kind of post, final reminder: US Fest call for proposals is ending tomorrow, and don't wait until the last day, etc. Holy crap! I'm always waiting until
the last day for these things. They always come in at like the 11th hour. But,
But fun fact was that I was leaving on 13th July, and I said, the deadline is on 15th or 16th. It could be fine. I will be already settled in Egypt, and I will just do my submissions. And then on 17th, I said, oh la la.
I remember submitting conference proposals like. Time zone differences also make things nice and fun, because it says one thing for a time zone and it means like it's either local to them or it's local to you, and you never know. But I remember being in Australia, and I don't want to get into that too much, but we'd ended up arriving at our hotel, finding it was closed to check in, and had to find another hotel in the city. There was very few, and the Code Garden submission deadline was like an hour later. So I got into the hotel room and sat on the bed, 15 minutes to go before the deadline. And I submitted my 2 sessions, which admittedly, completely my fault. I had them drafted, written, ready to go, and I just hadn't submitted them like a proper idiot. So and then Ilham at the time sent me a screenshot, and it was submitted like literally in the final minute. It's it happens.
I do remember that. We have a couple of people joining us today in this midsummer atmosphere. So let us know in the comments. We can see them all. How's your holiday period going? Are you taking time off? Are you catching up on stuff? Just let us know how it's going for you.
So far, only people from the UK here. I think school holidays for the UK started yesterday, maybe, or today. this week. And so really this is just the start of our summer, holidays, but I think our summer's part. Denmark seemed to just take the whole
month off. Yeah, I was going to say that probably no one from Denmark probably can join us today or during the holiday break maybe. But then again, let us know. It all depends from the plans of the people. But yeah, and let's try to summarize what has happened, because last time when we had an umbraCoffee, it was during the Cold Garden itself. And then we did some polls, because we already had a couple of the episodes in the June. So it's a lot to catch up in theory, but at the same time it was beginning of the summer holiday, so maybe not all of that was shared, captured, or finished yet, but we will do our best to summarize it. But one thing that I wanted to also start from, because at the beginning of July there's always this kind of MVP buzz happening all over, and it was regarding to the Microsoft MVPs awards being renewed. Callum, you've been renewed for which time?
Fifth time now, which means I get an extra blue disc to put on my award, which is cool.
Yeah, but also a couple of other Umbraco community members were renewed this time as well.
I think everyone that was up for renewal got renewed, which is awesome. And looking at even community adjacent people like Morton was saying, I think he's been renewed for his 11th or 12th time now, which is very epic.
But yeah, congrats to everyone who got renewed from the MVP from Microsoft, and yeah, looking forward for more interesting stuff and more bundlings between the .NET and Umbraco, which is pretty often seen now these days, and that's pretty cool. But from the community and from an Umbraco perspective, Emra wrote an article at the beginning of the month summarizing the whole quarter from the perspective of Umbraco community. And there was, of course, a lot of highlights from Cold Garden, and not to be mentioned, we didn't gather all of the follow-ups and articles and summaries of Cold Garden. There was so many of them flying around the web. So please do find them yourself, or there was some kind of list somewhere, but I didn't mention them today. But yeah, Emma also started from summarizing the Cold Garden, and of course it was a huge success, I think, from all of the perspectives. I wouldn't say that anything went wrong. There were really cool sessions. There were really great activities for the community. We had a lot of fun and activities around the tech conference, and it was 1,600 plus attendees plus. Which I don't know if it has a mix of in-person and online participants, because it was combined and hybrid event.
Yeah.
How would you summarize, Callum, from your perspective? Yeah.
I was going to say, I'd love to know from anyone that did attend virtually how it was, because I've only really spoken to people that attended in person. But yeah, let us know. It was good, I think. As always, didn't see many talks because I was chatting with people or doing other things. There was the chat about like trying to up the crazy, up the weird, and it was certainly weirder than previous years, or than last year especially, but perhaps not quite 2015 weird or something. I think times have changed a bit. Yeah, overall good.
We also celebrated 1,000 subscribers of our channel, but it decreased. So probably YouTube re-indexed or removed our family's members.
Depending on the tools you check as well, it still says it says different numbers. So yeah, go and create a few more fake accounts, people. Let's get
still we celebrated, so it counts. It counts. We did celebrate, so yeah. But at the same time, what I was referring to is like it's interesting statistic that Umbraco Discord, community Discord, gained 65 plus attendees. But there was a kind of activity going towards inviting people to Discord, sharing this Discord channel as a main community channel to actively talk and participate in communication. So it's interesting growth, and I don't know now how big number of the Discord members is, because I'm still not there actively. But if anyone else is here who has access to Discord now, tell us about this number. But it is a huge number of community members from what I remember already. So yeah, that was a lot of good numbers and KPIs accomplished, I would say, from all the perspectives. And yeah, of course, Umbraco 14 was the main topic of the whole event, and it's still a hot topic. We've been talking about it last time when we had umbraCoffee online too.
Not we got 14, we've got 14.1 now. Like,
yes,
things are moving along quite nicely.
Yes. So yeah, I won't be going through all of the updates here, but it was a lot of activities, of course, a lot of team communities created, new advisory boards, 100 MVPs, and meetups, which we'll be talking about soon. Some festivals we will also touch upon as well. So yeah, catch up and see what has happened amongst the community activities in the last quarter, and soon we will be approaching the middle of the next quarter, so it will be a new set of stuff. Talking about Umbraco 14, you've probably also seen a lot of new blog posts, adoptions, and new updates from the people who do a lot of fun and cool stuff with it. And I just highlighted the 2,538 members, so yeah, huge number. And yeah, what I wanted to share is a lot of new updates from people like Matt, for example, doing some new cool stuff with Umbraco 14s and extension types here being packed to NPM package. So plenty of steps forward to work with Umbraco 14 in more orchestrated ways, being explored by the, let's say, .NET pure developers or mixed developers who are doing things a little bit different, I would say, in the past, right? So it's great to see that as well happening. What is your status, Callum, with Umbraco 14? Did you do anything with it already, or not?
Yeah, still haven't really touched it in anger. I've built a couple of little experiments, but yeah, at this point we're still firmly wedded on 13. I mean, the kind of lifespan or timelines for a lot of our projects are quite long, so at this point they've all been kind of committed to 13, and that's probably where they'll stay for a while. But there'll come a time in the next 12 months or so where we'll probably start using it. We've got some interesting work going on at the moment, building like a starter kit baseline solution. There's been a lot of debate about how we best support 14 and support future development forward with that. So yeah, it's definitely going to be something on our horizon soon. Actually, maybe stepping back from 14 a bit, what Matt's saying here about having a way of shipping JavaScript elements alongside a .NET project that you might want to use in the .NET project is interesting to us, because we've also got that problem right now. How do we ship front-end build processes alongside?
But from another point of view, I saw yesterday that Node.js, for example, can run TypeScript directly from the console in the new recent version. So it's like, in theory, some people want to hide this code from, or utilize this code from the package perspective, but some of the people want to run it directly in their console or tool. So it is interesting to have it mixed now. And we've been talking about last time that it might be not too natural for a pure backend developer who was just doing MVC maybe in Razor, and now just do some things a little bit different. But
I mean, even on that, it's a debate we've been having a lot recently. Like, we're building tools and extension points for developers that maybe aren't predominantly .NET devs, or maybe aren't predominantly front-end devs, and how do we make that experience as consistent and easy as possible? One of the discussions I was having yesterday was about tag helpers in .NET, which are cool, very cool, except I think they're pretty alien to people that don't understand what they're doing. So, like, for example, most people, I know you can do this with tag helpers, but you can go like partial Blair and import partial. But most people, most Umbraco documentation point towards using HTML.partial or partial async. Well, we've been looking at creating things that a developer might use, let's say, to embed a responsive image into a page. We've actually been thinking more about hanging stuff off of that HTML helper, so someone can do HTML.responsive image rather than calling responsive image Blair, because it's a little bit more consistent and familiar for developers. Equally, I learned this week that I had a tag helper used in a view somewhere, and I moved the view somewhere outside of where the view imports were, and the view imports was what was loading the tag helper in the first place. And you get no IntelliSense to then say that I now don't have that threshold, and suddenly it just renders a very strange HTML tag on the front end, and everything's broken. And you're like,
and it's still built, right? It's still built.
Still built. So this is not ideal. So yeah, we've been having a lot of these debates currently about trying to build an experience that works for both front end and back end devs. It's been fairly interesting.
Yeah, same here. Ihor from my teams did a huge internal presentation of all the ways to extend Umbraco 14. So he wanted to gather all of the ways on how you can hook into which parts of the Umbraco UI, back office, back end, front end, how you can generally flexibly extend it. And it's exciting to see that because there are so many and so much more ways right now to hook into everything what Umbraco can offer through the APIs, utilizing your APIs. So I'm pretty sure that it will be really exciting to see this being adopted more, and when we will see the projects running it, there will be probably more to watch and follow and replicate amongst our projects as well. So yeah, that's really cool. But not only Matt did explore a lot of it. We've seen posts from Warren still hacking and doing and making stuff pretty cool. This one was interesting on the ToDo animation and sound playing when the page is published. But generally, it's also showing off how to override the save and publish button with some other actions and logic, basically. So previously, I don't know if it was Mikkel who tried to add some button to the dropdown, as same as you have an unpublished, save and publish or something, and it wasn't possible to do it without any crazy hacks. Now, in theory, you can just extend it with some custom actions, or even put a button next to it, which will be doing some kind of headless preview or whatever else is needed to be done there.
Or you could override stuff, but then only one thing could override stuff. So it's the kind of last one wins type thing.
No.
Now it's like it's a proper API, and yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Sebastian. Yes, I was supposed to share screen, but this was the blog from Warren, and the code which shows how to override the specific part of the code which is responsible for it and handling the action of this. It's pretty cool because again, so many extension ways and so many places where maybe some of us even didn't think about changing stuff in Umbraco, but now we can change it.
I mean, the ToDo thing that Warren's done is very, very cool, very fun. I like the idea that we can actually do this now without, a ton of hacks. It's easier to customize. The whole back office is CSS variables, so yeah, like that's
no interceptors. Interceptors.
That's what I'm saying though. So it plays a drum roll sound and then does the confetti effect. Just imagine you've got your volume on full or something and you don't realize, and then you hit publish.
I kind of like this animation too. So yeah, really good example. Reminding me the times when I was writing the Windows Phone applications that they were just proving what can be done with Windows Phone platform, and now the examples is like this is just an example, but how it can be used then it's a lot of possibilities.
I think maybe I'll get in trouble for sharing this, who knows, but it doesn't matter. I think in Slack somewhere this week I saw Sean Thorne talking about how he's been extending the back office and basically to create experiences, and the focus has now gone from being how do I create something that looks good and looks right to more like design, layout, thinking about the experience, not how do I get something to be possible, which is good. So we've got all these components, we've got all the extension points, and people are actually starting to use them and placing things in areas that means that this could be a package and could be easily deployed without breaking bits of the CMS or having to customize things. So it's exciting to see. We've yet to do it. It's exciting.
Yep. Another interesting thing I found on Joe's blog, which is called Umbraco Flavored Markdown, something that I was completely unfamiliar with.
Interrupt. Is this the official name?
No idea. I like the name though, but generally this is the replacement or the kind of new way of doing things that were previously done with AngularJS filters, which in theory were not that heavily used, but it seems like they were heavily used. So some of the packages, like even what was the name of it? It was like nested content, or all the other packages that were displaying, for example, the names of the documents that were coming from the selected items on the pickers, general selectors, multi-node tree pickers, and so on. They were all relying on some of the filters, and there were a huge group of people who were writing their own filters to also do some crazy data manipulation, even though to display the curated information for the editors, which was pretty awesome. And now it seems like together with AngularJS, it's gone. So there needs to be a new way. And it seems, and again, Warren confirmed that it's currently called UFM. So that's really cool. So this is the new way for doing this. And Joe created some kind of cheat sheet, maybe some kind of walkthrough of all the properties and how they can be utilized and used. And yeah, it comes with some syntax changes, of course, and the idea is still similar, but it's more like a Markdown kind of mixture of HTML and Markdown. It's pretty cool, and of course, if it does the job, that's awesome, and that's exactly for what it was made for. And yeah, it has some possibilities to even work with toggles and information coming in the Boolean types. And I wanted to say one thing, because I worked a lot with Alpine.js in one of my side projects, which is really cool for backend developer like me to do front-end stuff and front-end data manipulation. And I found the pattern, which is basically toggle driven and Boolean driven. So there is a lot of classes applications and a lot of ways of describing how to do some things based on some flags generally, right? And I kind of like this pattern right now, so I will definitely use it more often amongst this if it is possible in Umbraco as well. So it is a lot of stuff, and now also Joe described how to create our own filter with custom extension, custom logic, doing some stuff. So pretty cool, pretty cool. I haven't explored it yet. I didn't know it exists. So it seems like it will be the new way of doing things. Yeah. Thanks, Joe, for sharing. Other than that, there was a two script releases since we talked. 107 release at the beginning of the month, and mid-month just a couple weeks ago, with a couple of the good articles from Dennis, from Darek, and highlights of the festivals that are approaching and events that are approaching just after the summer, which we'll be talking about, and a lot of great blogs. And again, there are so many blogs that probably if someone took a week of holidays, it won't be enough to read all of them and walk through them. But some of the really good headless explorations, search blog posts, and even GDPR benefits of upgrading Umbracos from some of our well-known community members and plenty of others. So go to Script and explore that on your side. And in the mid-month episode, a couple of other really cool articles also from Warren, and the one that I kind of liked from Ken about the delivery APIs. And I don't know if it was regarding this blog post, but Ken shared some tweet or Mastodon post that triggered a lot of the people, because he said that delivery APIs are for everything. And basically in the blog post, he said that they can be used for more than just delivering content. And of course, custom APIs are cool, but delivery API has the one way to serve the content, which might be the shared way for various content types. And one sentence that I remind from this article was that if you need to write a pretty heavy, complex API endpoints to get some content items for your headless stuff, maybe your content structure is not well structured, and maybe your data is requiring some kind of restructuring instead of APIs. So yeah, I really like this article. I don't know if you read any of this, Callum.
I did definitely see Ken's article. I think he shared it on LinkedIn, and I had a little read there. It looked awesome. I did want to jump back slightly to the search. I mean, there's two articles.
Yeah.
This script and one in the previous script. So Jesper and Joe both did articles on search. I was a little involved with Joe's article, so I can talk a bit more about that. But I mean, they cross the same sort of thing, doing the same thing in different ways. Is it that Joe's article is in the next script?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that time and time again we see people doing search wrong, and I understand that it can be a little bit hard to come up against. But one of the things I wanted to say, and it's something I've discovered recently, I don't know if it's documented anywhere, but in recent versions of Examine, I think Examine 3, there's been a change to the way that paging works. And the way that you were told to do paging before is now wrong, but it still works.
Okay.
So what happens is now, there used to be on iSearch results, the interface returned by Examine, there used to be skip and take methods, and the iSearch results implemented skip and take itself. So it would do that directly with the index rather than doing it in memory. Now it does not. So it's just a collection, and you are skipping and taking in memory again. The difference now is when you call query execute, you can pass in a options object that gives you how many to skip and how many to take. And so you need to do that. Chances are in your code, you've got some code that goes query.execute, skip and take. That doesn't work anymore. Don't do that, please. Do query execute and pass in an object instead that has your skip and take.
Okay.
All of a sudden, overnight, just by upgrading between 12 and 13, that Examine API change comes with it, and suddenly you're doing slow queries.
That might be interesting to be found in some huge project with some reliance on performance and this way of approaching, because I do also remember that we've tweaked some of the projects by applying this proper pagination, properly described in the previous documentation.
Yeah.
Isn't all about just maybe delaying execution of the query building when the filters are created or when the query is built?
Yeah, no. So when you call execute, that does actually execute the query at that time. So before it would have done that, and then when you did skip and take, it would have done further query or further paging within that object, but it did it efficiently. Whereas now it literally calls, if you call skip take, it will do the query and then pull everything into memory, skip and take. And if you've not, to be fair, if you only iterate it once, then that's all fine. But if you don't, it will be evaluated every single time you iterate it as well. So yes, make a note, people. As Warren says, he's documenting. I was going to do a little bit of digging just to find out exactly when this actually happened, when it came to be. But I believe it was in Examine 3, which, and I believe that became a thing it was even in Examine 2. Oh, so maybe it's been a thing since Net 4, in which case I didn't realize, and we've just been upgrading our projects and doing it the right way that we were taught. But
yeah, but it's still better to find it rather than live it for longer. But maybe it wasn't that visible in less demanding queries and projects, maybe, right? So that's still, memory is a relatively cheap resource, and it might not be that heavily exposed. But yeah, it's a good finding, and I would love to hear if anyone else suffered from this or found it earlier, because it might be huge information, and that also proves how documentation and how the let's say best practices that were established as best practices can hurt, because we are following what we remember from our previous code instead of just finding the new ways, maybe, right? Interesting.
I'm very quickly checking the docs here now, and I can't see any references to it, so I'm not sure. But yes, definitely a thing for people to go look at.
Yeah, if anyone will find it, let us know. That would be really cool to talk about next time. Maybe we can do some kind of search related discussions on various topics, because it still seems to be one of the...
Love to talk more about search. This is something that I do a lot, and I'm glad I invested time in it, because I get it now. But I understand it's not on everyone's priority list, but I guarantee whenever someone comes up against, I've got to do an Examine task, like, I didn't have to. And then we see people doing things in ways that are less efficient, like just looping over loads and loads of stuff in memory, or
But But the fun fact was that one of my friends who I helped with the project had a logic of APIs, and most of the APIs were getting the information from memory, from just the cache information from the documents. And just one method was getting the information by some ID in theory, and it was searching for this ID through the examine search query. And of course, the ID maybe at the beginning of the project was just a number or just a string, but it evolved into a pretty heavy string with some hashtags, some special characters in it. And no one noticed that examine is just stripping these characters by default, right? Because there are some special characters. So ID is no longer an ID. It's just a bunch of separated strings because the special characters are removed. And funny enough, the result from the API was just query the result and get the first one. which we know that search can be crazy, right? And it was just inconsistent API responses noticed. So that was funny.
Yeah, I was just to throw in there as well. No, it's gone. Damn, my brain. You can tell I'm running on very little sleep this week. Oh no, that was sorry.
Yeah.
Back to me. I had this discussion the other day, like seen the code base this week, where instead of calling descendants on the Umbraco API, which is inefficient, they were doing an examine query to go get the descendants, which is probably more efficient if you're over a large data set. But I'd be very intrigued to know where the tipping point is, where it suddenly becomes more efficient to do something one way over another. In this case, they already had the parent node, and they were fetching that by ID. So they already knew the node in content. Then they were doing an examine search, and then for each result that comes back, they're going and fetching the content out of the cache to get the iPublish content for it. So in the end, it results in about, if you get 100 results, 101 calls to the cache, which is that more or less efficient than just calling .descendants? I don't know. I know Tim and
Paul Seal. They did this talk when they created the whole benchmark of this. Yeah. Just when we started doing the .NET Core stuff, right? So maybe it's the time to revisit this benchmark and check it on the most recent examined versions as well.
I know Shannon did a talk at one point, Code Garden, maybe 2019 or 21, I don't know. He did a talk where he said, I would argue some controversial things like, if you know the ID, hard code the ID and get stuff by ID, that's perfectly okay. That's faster than, more filtering. And it's a very valid point. I feel like it's something we should do.
Well, let's explore that, and definitely there might be some good benchmarks to be shared with, especially the upgraded versions of Umbraco and Examine and everything else behind the scenes. So let's see if anyone will come up with them sooner or later. From the releases perspective, a couple of the ones that I wanted to highlight, starting from Umbraco Commerce v14 beta 1. It's a first beta version of Commerce Engine for Umbraco, adopted for Umbraco 14. It's probably something what will be still updated. And of course, it's right now an Umbraco project, so it will come together with Umbraco releases. I haven't tested it and checked it yet, but it would be really cool to see if it's just adoption or it's all outstanding major features of 14. So no new features, but generally the new code base probably for more new features. So it was a big rebuild, I believe, for Matt and the team there. So it was a lot of things to be changed in the back office for sure.
It's one of the most UI heavy.
Yeah.
And completely custom. And I know that when Matt came on board, they did have a chat with the UI team to sort of bring some of the elements, components across to the UI library to make sure that they would work eventually. Like Matt had concepts of they might have been stolen out of or inspired by the log viewer, but like the idea of having a drop-down list with checkboxes, with pills inside each, with different colors, different text, etc., is not really a UI that was existing anywhere else, but it exists in UUI now. So hopefully that work helped Matt a bit, but this can't have been a small build for sure.
And again, yet another huge package or part of the ecosystem that is ready for or being moved to be ready to version 14 production. The next ones are forms. There were 2 new releases in the recent times: Umbraco forms version 13.2 and 14.1. Still with plenty of fixes, new features, and some really cool stuff. I don't want to go into more details. It's still pretty solid expansion of Umbraco forms, together with Umbraco deploy. If I'm correct, the next one are deploy, following the same release cycle. But these are RCs for the version 13 and 14. So all the cloud projects, all the people and companies that are using Umbraco deploy can benefit from the new updates and support from legacy GREET and community packages as well. So that's a update there. The next one is another Umbraco deploy, but another one is Mr. Contentment, showing some sneak peeks of raw editing JSON in the developer mode for Contentment. So something what is pretty cool for geeky minds and people who want to still dive into JSON and see how it's looking or how to edit the stuff, or maybe they store some JSON somewhere and wants to just copy it over, etc. So, but also for some people like me, it's interesting to see how it is all represented in the JSON, because I've been doing some cool, crazy stuff with Contentment recently. Because I was creating and manipulating blocks programmatically from the code. So when I was registering members, I wanted to add some code blocks to contentment property in the membership itself. And it was a lot of JSON manipulation. So for me previously, it took some time to debug the code, get the current JSON representation of the structure, deserialize it, serialize it, add some items and so on. Now I can go here and just see how the JSON looks straight from back office UI and copy and paste it to the code or ChatGPT and create some code against that. So I like it. It's pretty cool. And again, it's for already Umbraco Bellissima. So that's also cool to see and being built from Lee and Umbraco team. Last but not least is the marketplace itself, because I've mentioned there was a lot of releases. And there was also some issues with marketplace like this, for example, that stopped us from exploring a lot of the packages. But what I wanted to just show off, and I can't now, yeah, that's the one. So it's a lot of new starter kits and themes for Youthkind, and it was shared amongst the social media as the team is also supporting the US festival. From what I saw today, they released 16 plus. I don't want to misalign, but probably 16 new themes and new designs for the Youthkind. So it's a lot of new themes, and they were of course all released here. The ToDo package from Warren that we've talked about, 2-factor authentication user login, adding from Warren as well, adding this for Umbraco back office users for supporting Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, and Twilio. And some other ones. Damn it. Come on. Where it is? I lost it. So a couple of other ones for sure. I would be maybe scrolling from here. Starter kits, factor Umbraco front door caching package. That's the one that I wanted to talk about from Steve. Still, you Callum used front door a lot, right?
Yeah.
Are you still using front door over Cloudflare?
We love Cloudflare now. Cloudflare is very good as sort of an all-encompassing platform that does lots of things. There is some cool, I'm not allowed to talk about some cool things coming to front door that you reconsider front door. But we've also got, we were scoping out a project this week that needs to be all Azure and nothing but Azure, and so front door makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, so there's a package from Steve allowing us to configure it for the Umbraco project and application. There were a couple of more. Right now I have them. So more packages. Some instant block preview for headless from Knowit. That was the one that I also noticed earlier. I won't be opening it. I don't want to lose this view for now. And a couple of other ones. So we can see that Marketplace is still being pretty active. And I don't know if we talked about the minifiers and S3 blob storage packages, but we can all explore them here. And plenty of them are getting updated and transitioned, but mostly still it's for version 13. And workspace views are for version 14. So there are new packages being released for version 14 as well, which is a good sign.
Should we talk about Scribbler from Jibe? I forgot about this one. Warren highlighted it in the chat. This is awesome. You might remember back in 2019, there was a bit of a craze of building editor.js type integrations.
Yes.
Now the whole block list concept came about because we sat down at the retreat and said the grid's broken. We need some new paradigms of editing, and the writing experience that we all concluded was world class was medium.com, which was good for writing long-form content and building out articles where you can just start type writing, and then you can drag paragraphs around, you can reorder bits, you can put dynamic elements in there. And editor.js is a library that's existed for a long time. It's really good, and I believe Mark Stoker at the time built a prototype to get this into Umbraco 8. But this is an actual real-life released working editor for 14. I think it's 14, which looks exceptional, looks really, really good. So Matt from Jibe has been working. Oh, it's for 13. Matt from Jibe's been working on this one. I've got a few wish lists for it. Like it should really be element types under the hood, so it's more easily customizable, etc. But it looks great. It looks really, really good as a start. But
is it using editor.js editor, or it's a custom?
I think it is. Warren will know more than me, I expect. But Steve was talking with me about this at Code Garden, and I think it's editor.js, something they've been working on for a little while.
We can probably see it right on on the code here, but yeah, that's a really cool one. I saw it somewhere, but then it was probably during my holiday time, and I was just thinking if it's a custom editor, fully custom editor, which could be a kind of dangerous dependency in terms of CMS world, because it might be, it's pretty hard to follow up on Tiny or other release editors like this to generally deliver everything what can be done with them. But it is really looking cool, and if it's using some heavily adopted library like editor.js, which I also heard about, that might be really cool one to dive into and explore.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what we envisaged when we were talking about the block list editor in the first place, and that you could build these sorts of experiences for writing long-form content. There's never been an experience like this in Umbraco, so it's really needed. As I say, my only wish is that it just aligned with the blocks concept, because then you could take an existing, you could take an existing block list that you've got and turn it into a Scribbler editor, and vice versa. Needed to, or rich text to grid type thing would be ace. I can dream.
Another one is like focus mode, completely hide everything besides editor, and then you can go far and beyond. But yeah, it looks really cool. I do use, and I did use a lot of other editors from other CMSs, and inline editing was heavily needed by people who are writing longer pieces of content, obviously, because for data-driven blogs and so on, still the rich text editor is more than enough for majority of the cases.
People still write long-form content in Word or whatever, and then copy and paste it over.
Paste it, yeah.
Terrible. Like, why we have a CMS here for a reason with all these lovely tools. Why are we letting people do that? So,
again, the same friend that I spoke with, they built a Word extension. So Microsoft Word extension that publishes content from Word to Umbraco from Word. So it passes the content from Word in this crazy format that Word is using in the docx. It's XML something. It's crazy format. I worked with it recently. Do not recommend. And it's going through APIs and then creates the blocks in Umbraco. So people are doing it still.
Sure. I mean, it was a thing back in the day, wasn't it? Supported. What were they called? There was a standard for connected editors, basically.
Published. Yeah, but cool work, and yeah, kudos to Matt and Steve and then the team there to bring this alternative to life, and I'm really curious to use it, because I will definitely check it when I will start working with the new project. Cool. So that's the releases, and probably plenty other ones that are cool. But let us know if there's anything else that you've spotted across the newly released packages and extensions from Umbraco, and we'll definitely highlight them on the next umbraCoffee too. Events are the next one on our agenda. There were a couple of Umbraco meetups already happening in the summer. Did you attend any of them, Colin? There was a London catch
We hosted
up.
a London one last week. That was good. It was a bit of a Code Garden recap. We had a demo of the Byte editor from ByteAnt, which team Ukraine Tanya joined. She's did a lightning talk at Code Garden as well. Really interesting. Whether it's a product you want to use or not, like the approach that team's taken for building a really nice editor experience is great. So definitely check that out on the Code Garden recordings if you want to see Tanya's talk. I did some talks at some other meetups as well, but they're not really Umbraco. London, we've got a barbecue coming up.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about all of these ones that are upcoming, because not only in July, but August is pretty packed as well, with Edinburgh meetup, Umbraco barbecue in London, and Kerala, Umbraco user group also organizes one on August 14th, and Bristol group also has a social on August, Glasgow, and the barbecue in Copenhagen.
It seems everyone's doing meetups in August, which is
And then we'll have September. But okay, we'll catch up in August to talk about September's events. But yeah, it's a lot of events to choose. Also with the online ones that can be watched from everywhere. But if you mentioned watching things from the recordings, yes, the Umbraco HQ released some of the recordings from Code Garden already, starting from the keynote recording. And also Umbraco Awards show. So all the awards, all of the nominations, all of the inspirations that we can also talk about were recorded and shared. So we expect, and Umbraco said that at the beginning of September, right, there will be more talks, and most of the talks released. So now some of them just were landed here, and we can wait for more. So that's talks and events. Other than that, Callum, you've been attending the podcast. Can you tell us more about this one?
I don't want to spoil too much because this will come out in a couple of weeks. But
it's not umbraCoffee, but it looks like
this. And I must confess, this was recorded on Discord. So that is me on a Discord server.
Oh, very rare picture.
Lottie said,
not a Callum like.
Does this mean you're going to join the? Does this mean you're going to join the Umbraco Discord now? And I said no. I'm still on there. I've tried to get access to my account. I've lost access. I've done my effort anyway. No, we recorded a podcast with Dan. So Dan hosts a podcast called the Unhandled Exception Podcast. It's been going since around the start of COVID. And the fun fact here is that Carl and I were talking with Dan back in 2021 to actually make this happen. It was supposed to be episode 12 and it's going to be episode 69. So, time's moved on a bit. Carol and Lottie joined throughout the years as well, as we've sort of been working on this idea to build up an episode on Umbraco. And anyway, there we go. That's
that's really nice, and again, it's a heavily watched podcast as well. It definitely will give some adoption and expansion of Umbraco stuff, because obviously there are 3 great Umbraco community members sharing a lot of interesting, I assume, stuff from everything what everyone is doing. So yeah, it will be good visibility for Umbraco amongst the .NET and wider community of developers and people loving tech. So that's really cool. That's really cool. And people loving tech. I have some special kudos for Terence here, because that's still starting from the retro computers, going through the LED screens and pixel displays integrated with Mastodon APIs. Again, we are not on Mastodon yet, but we are following up on what is happening on Mastodon there. But Terence shared there.
Terence also did tweet this morning, but
yeah, yes, exactly. But that's a really cool LED display that is sharing some information when High Five You Rock hashtag appears, I assume. So yeah, it's a really cool. So combined with ToDo package from Warren, it can have a lot of potential and cross paths of utilizing visuals and sound effects when anything interesting is happening in the community. So that's a really cool combination. I've been doing some cleanups on my home office recently, and I found some blocks for programming made for children, and they had some LED displays as well, and they were programmable. So I might have some fun with it soon. But yeah, it's looking good, and it seems like it does its job. So kudos to Terence for really cool stuff.
I had a little dream earlier this week that I'd love to do a talk where we do like a proper IoT talk where we can get people to assemble a little IoT device and connect it to Umbraco somehow. But turns out it'd be quite expensive. I looked at the hardware requirements, and it's going to be like, I don't know, 30 quid per person in the audience. So. I love these sorts of little hacks, integrations, building with hardcore tech, not just writing silly code like we normally do.
Yeah, but what scares me the most is like, when you are starting to think about devices, it's like, I have this reference like taxi driver driving a car. You don't need to understand how to replace the engine, right, when you're driving the car. And I'm this kind of driver. I can write software against the machine, and my machine will do something with it. But when it comes to doing some hardware replacements or building the PC devices or gluing things together, it's definitely not my world yet, at least. But I do admire people who are diving that much into that. And there was a really heavily spread information about the trains in Poland. I don't know if it was worldwide. It probably was, because a group of hackers was hired, ethical hackers was hired to deassemble and dive into the code which was written by the company that made the trains stop. And they were literally broken in theory. And it seems that this was a code which was just written to stop them if they were not serviced in the proper service point, right? Which was the one which was supported by the company, etc. And they did some kind of reverse engineering code, machine assembler, jumps in codes and so on. That's crazy, but it's a completely different world.
Yeah. Whilst we're on the topic of that, should we just quickly talk about CrowdStrike, because
yeah, we can. Yeah, we can.
Why not? Like, anyone in the chat get affected? Because that was a little fun Friday for me last week. But yeah, you're talking about like we application developers, we only have to worry about our code and does it run. It turns out sometimes someone can drop kernel level patch and it breaks everything that your stuff runs on. It was funny, even on up to Monday we were still finding external services dependencies we had that were failing due to outages due to this. So I hope no one was too badly affected.
It was not affecting me directly because I was lying literally in front of the swimming pool, and it was fun to see, because I spoke with my wife, and she said no they say that it was just a couple of airports, right? It's somewhere in Asia. Yeah, screw it then. And then we went back to swim.
The US was quite badly affected.
Yeah, but then I checked my sources, and then it turns out, oh shit, it's a global outage and it's a huge issue. And I saw just a meme or image of some in theory CrowdStrike employee who said, "Oh yeah, happy Friday, just made a deployment and went home."
Yeah, I know.
That's
Definitely. It's funny to see who it did and didn't affect. So the UK was somewhat affected. Our train services broke, etc. I think in a lot of cases it was people using like cloud infrastructure as well. But the amusing thing was like, banks, etc. all kept running fine, which just shows they're probably all running ridiculously old systems that this didn't get rolled out to, which is again just slightly scary. It might be a meme, but someone saying, "Oh, X country didn't get impacted by it because they still run Windows 2000.
Yeah, 3 point, something like that. Yeah, but that also exposed, who is still, which kind of systems are depending from, Windows devices and so on. Of course, there were some kind of past histories from the same outage or issue with CrowdStrike in Linux world, etc.
Yeah.
So it's not like Linux will solve all the problems or things like that. But yeah, it's just
CrowdStrike's just the problem.
Yeah, it just proves how we are in the world in general right now is tech heavy and tech dependent. So I saw some invoice being written on the piece of paper, and that was like, or no, it wasn't an invoice, it was a boarding pass or something like that.
Yeah, and we had newsreaders going back to just like standing in front of a camera, no screens, nothing, just a piece of paper. Like, the reason I wanted to bring this up quickly was because. Of course, Microsoft got all the blame for it, which I'm sure CrowdStrike are laughing about. Of course, it was nothing to do with Microsoft other than the fact that they were forced to open up this option for third-party vendors to put software where they did. Besides the point, Microsoft got all the blame, at least in the press, and it made me realize that whilst it's quite funny to look at or quite scary to look at, this also impacts us. So like. Where Umbraco has a security vulnerability that gets patched, in often cases that's like a dependency, and Umbraco takes the heat for that. Equally, where we have a bug in the solutions we build, but it turns out to be an Umbraco bug, we're the ones that get the blame for it. And I empathize with the position quite a bit. So yeah.
Yeah. But that's the world. Someone needs to take the bullet, right? And then the life goes on, and until the next outage or issue or something like that. So yeah, that's funny. Cool. There were a couple of things that I wanted to still mention because Umbraco-wise, there was a lot of new tips and information being shared on LinkedIn as well recently, and then Adam, for example, who we are both and probably most of us knew, is pretty active on LinkedIn recently and sharing some pretty cool highlights and small tips that can be easily implemented on the Umbraco application. So if anyone is interested in quick tips like this, definitely check it out and check what Adam is sharing there.
I got a sneak peek this week of a little new dashboard package that someone in the community is working on. Looks really epic, really pretty, lots of nice big graphs and very interactive, and looked ace, and all built in modern front-end tech, so it's kind of unlocking all of that new possibility as well. So, customize the back office, definitely.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really interesting Umbraco stuff also on LinkedIn, so definitely check it out too. And Warren's article about why why he is still doing it and why we can still do that amongst the community, even despite the fact of being granted with lifetime MVP. And Warren is with us here as well today. So it was a really interesting blog post captured from the recent posts about the community, about everything else after 20 years of doing this, check it out and definitely read through and follow Hack Make Do, because Warren is still hacking a lot of the cool stuff, and I'm sure there will be more of really cool stuff being shared there. And events ahead of us, that was something what we can briefly talk about at the end of the episode. There is a pretty busy period of time after the summer. You said that you are starting from September off, so you will miss a couple of them.
I'm not missing. I'm not the only one. I'm not missing is CodeCabin.
Okay.
The only one I'm not going to CodeCabin, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's a Umbraco Dutch festival. There is I will just open the script and I will go through the list there.
Dutch Fest is on the 19th.
19th, yes.
The US Festival, which is on the Friday the 4th in Chicago, and there is a hackathon the day before on the 3rd. There is the Umbraco. I'm going to mispronounce
Kalaset.
Swedish Festival happening on the 23rd of October, and then we have the Umbraco UK Festival happening on the 8th of November, followed by the DK Festival on the 21st of November. So literally one every 2 weeks for September through to the end of November. And in addition to festivals, we've got CodeCabin happening and a whole bunch of meetups, as you saw as well. Yeah. CodeCabin invites have gone out, I believe, this week. Got to pay by end of next week, ideally. I think Duke Fest speakers have also been announced, and I think the other ones are still pending. But, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's extremely active time of the year, and definitely do go and check the events near to you, or decide where to go to find out some new cool stuff about Umbraco. And we'll be talking about them, and we'll be talking about agenda updates, everything else updates, new website releases, and information releases as well, as they occur. And we will catch up next month to see what can be discussed then. And be sure to let us know if there's anything cool that you are working on, or if there's anything else that you've seen somewhere in the Umbraco sphere that is worth highlighting, or maybe if you want to join us to talk about it or show it off on our umbraCoffee in the August.
Yeah.
That's all for today. Anything else, Callum, from your side?
Like, subscribe, get us back to 1,000, please.
Next goal garden, Callum. Next goal.
Tell your friends, tell your family, get your dog to create an account, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and do enjoy everything else what you are doing during the next month of the summer. And we'll catch up by the end of August. Have a great rest of the day and weekend ahead of you. See you next month, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.